Well, hello again. I'm here to pick up the story where I left us off last time with Jason and the Argonauts. You'll remember that they set sail from Greece, from Iolcos, and they sailed all the way through the dreadful clashing rocks and into the Black Sea, and then off to Colchis, where they arrived last time, and we left them in the palace of Aeetes, who is the king of Colchis. And Colchis and Jason had made his request for the Golden Fleece, which was the reason why he had come, and King Aeetes had replied that he could not give the fleece to him without Jason proving himself in some way. And then he had a challenge for him, the challenge of the yoking of the bulls and the plowing of the field and the taking on of the earthborn men. Well, that's where I left it. And what I didn't tell you was that there were others in that audience chamber. There were others with Aeetes and Jason. And I'd like to sort of pick it up from there. One of the people that was there was Medea. Now, you may have heard of this person before. Medea was a princess. She was the daughter of Aeetes, and she was a priestess of Hecate. Hecate is the goddess of the moon and of magic and the night. There were also two other men with Jason, Peleus and Telamon, his two good friends who came from the area right around Iolcos. And those two were with him to try and help him as he worked to gain the Golden Fleece. But I have to go back a little bit to explain how it all went. Let me see. Well, you remember they arrived in Colchis with the Argo on the ship, and they headed up towards the palace. Jason and Telamon and also Peleus. And they dressed, of course, in the best that they could find. Jason in glittering bronze with a helmet on and a great crimson cloak hanging from behind, and a bronze sword at his side, and Peleus and Telamon in similar garb. They walked up to the palace, and they were great, tall young men, handsome as they could be. And as they walked, they entered up into the palace, and as they walked past Medea, who was standing near the entrance. They paid her no attention, for they were intent. But Medea, as she saw them, was struck by just how handsome this Jason was, who seemed to stand even taller than the other two, and his eyes just seemed to glitter with fire of his purpose, and she wanted to know who this was. And as they passed by her, it seemed to her as though a dove came right off of Jason's shoulder and flew right past her, a white dove, and it brushed her cheek. And then they swept on past her. And she turned and she followed them into the audience chamber to see who they were and what they were intent upon, for these were people unlike any other she had seen before. She was a young girl, perhaps, maybe 18, maybe 20. And like many of such an age, well, a handsome young man turned her eye. So there she stood, watching from behind as they addressed her father. And Jason, of course, stood up and he said, I've come from afar, from Greece, and I have come to ask you that you would give us the Golden Fleece to take back to Greece. And of course, we know that Aeetes had replied that he could not do any such thing at all, not without Jason proving himself. And then he detailed the various things that Jason was to do. He was to take on the two great bronzed-hoofed bulls, breathing fire from their mouths. Yoke them, hook them up into a plow, and plow a field, acres of it, 4 turns down and up of the field, and sow those furrows, the places that you plow up, the furrows, with a dragon's teeth, and up would grow from that 10,000 men to fight, all for Jason to do in one day. Well, as Medea listened to this, she knew. She said, "No man can survive that, no mortal man. And be it so my father has done such a thing. Well, that's my father, maybe, but he's the son of a god." And as she heard it, she feared that this young man she had just seen and, well, rather fallen for, she feared he would die. And in her heart, she longed to help him somehow. But as she was pondering all this in her mind, she heard Jason stand up and say, "I'll do it." And then, oh my, oh Medea, her heart just fluttered as though she had seen, well, the one she loved best go off to death. She was horrified. She didn't really know what to do at all. And even before she knew it, Jason had walked right past her again, brushed past her again, and out of the palace he'd gone, and she found herself looking in the direction he'd gone. And suddenly she heard her father's voice behind her. "Medea!" It was Aeetes calling, and she turned and walked to him. "What is it, father?" And Aeetes said, "I need you to go, and I need you to pray to Hecate. I need you to pray for a potion that will weaken this man so that he can never take the golden fleece away from here." Well, you can imagine how Medea felt at such a task being put to her by her father. This is the young man that she has, well, fallen in love with just at first sight. And her father wants to make sure that he dies. Already, she's heard that he's been given a terrible, awful task, more difficult than she can imagine him even accomplishing. And now her father wants her to, well, make sure he dies. And yet, the word she finds herself saying is, "Yes, Father." And she turns and walks out of the palace. Well, the sun is setting as she walks from the palace, and she goes to the temple of Hecate, which is up at the very edge of town upon a hill, looking out over the edge of the mountains where the moon will rise first in the east. She kneels before the altar, and she begins to pray for a potion, for the means to make a potion. But what potion will she make? For this is a mistress who knows the arts of witchery. This is a princess who understands how to make things that make you strong, but also those that make you weak. She kneels before the altar, and she begins to pray to the goddess of the moon, Hecate. She begins to pray to the goddess of magic and night. And I do believe next time, on Friday, we'll find out what exactly it is she prays for. Bye.